I like cancel culture, but I think the issue is we don't give people opportunity to fix their mistakes. Because we can't be mad at other ethnicities and races who don't know our history because we're still learning our own. We're still making history.
Hey family, welcome to the Do You Know Black Kickback. I am your host, Lamont Carolina. And this is the official after party to the game show, Do You Know Black. Here we take questions from the game show, we mix them up, break them down, and then we have dope, meaningful conversations that are both thought-provoking and engaging. With that being said, let's take a look at how y'all did.
I already knew. They gonna jump me.
You didn't even look, you already knew.
They gonna jump me.
Alexa, you can stay. Sorry.
Oh! That's what friends are for.
I love y'all. I know about black, but I don't know about this black.
Wow.
But I know black, so.
Wait, oh, damn, girl. All right, get it. Great team. Talk to them. How you feel?
I know black, so. Ciao.
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
But ladies and gentlemen, the winner unlocking all the prizes. So our champion and the runner-up, right? What happened? Champion. Ooh, somebody's bitter. What? All right. Tell the world your truth.
I didn't lose, so.
You didn't lose.
No, because technically it was a tie, but you know.
So you want to recount, or you want an
I mean, I'm gonna take the L because I feel like with our round, because we were going tit for tat, you had to be like technical, and I did stumble on Black versus Negro, but it's fine.
What was it?
The question was, it was all Negro comics, the first Black-owned and operated comic book series.
Do you know the answer now?
It's all Negro comics, but I said all Black comics. I was answering
She was
too
doing
fast.
so well throughout the course of the entire show that I knew the only way that she was not gonna win was on a technicality.
Ooh.
So she was gonna have to, I knew she was gonna have to mess up one word. And fortunately, that happens.
You didn't know that.
I knew that was the only way that she was gonna miss her answer, because she knew everything.
So you were ready to go the distance.
I mean, I was gonna
But he
fight.
played
I
it
was gonna put up a good
well.
fight.
He played it very well because I wasn't worried about him. When it came down to us three, I was like, I know she knows her stuff. So I was like, this is my friend, but you gotta go. But then when I'm going with him, I'm like, damn, you know some stuff too. I was like, I should have voted him off and kept calm.
So there's a dilemma here, right? Where it's like you want people to help you along and get the right answers because you want the biggest prize.
Yeah.
But you don't want them to be too good because then you vote off. What was your strategy and what happened with you?
Well, my strategy was to keep the strong people on the team because, like you said, you want to unlock the gifts to get to the end. So that was my strategy. But it was interesting to see me and her have to, be picked, either me or her. And I don't blame you for doing it
because I originally voted for her because she messed up.
Yeah.
And then I was
so
like,
I understood. I didn't take it personal. I understand.
When you get voted off, how do you not take it personal?
I mean, because I didn't, in that particular round, didn't answer all the questions. She got more right. So I'm like, okay, it's justifiable, but.
Are you going to see her outside? Are you going to catch her?
I mean, my feelings was a little hurt when she switched, because it was me at first. I'm like, oh, so you switched up on me. It's okay.
I felt bad
okay.
for my friend.
And okay, what are your thoughts on this exchange here?
My question, it was kind of like tricky because when he was reading the question, like the listings of the names, Keisha not Pulliam, all I heard was the three ladies. And I was like, okay, Delta Sigma Theta. And he was like, no, I didn't hear that part about HBC. I was like, I'm from Atlanta, they're gonna shame me. But it's okay.
First off.
Hold it to my head, not to my heart. Thank you. Thank you.
Brother Black, what's going on?
Look, I was bitter too when I got voted off the island.
The first one?
I'm the first person voted off the island.
You ain't even get a chance to build a tent.
They got me out of here.
You did that to yourself, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Even before we started, you was wilding.
Right. Wait, what?
But look, so like in the pre-round, there was a question asked, and I got it right. I was on the right path, but then Jay made a face, so I thought I was on the wrong path. So then I said something else, and it was wrong.
Wait,
And I knew they was gonna vote me off the island that moment. I was like,
at that
damn.
moment,
Because you
knew-
saw us getting everything right, and you was like, yeah,
I
it's
was
over.
like, this is it. This is it. Mama, I'm sorry.
So did you just gave up? You submitted?
Nah, I didn't give up.
Yeah,
It's
you
just
voted
that
for me.
I just voted for Daniel, and that was smart.
It was smart. I was about to say that. And had we known,
I tried to
should've-
help you, sis.
It's the reason why
but
he
you
voted
got
for
rid of me.
Daniel, because he had a sneaky come up. He was playing it cool. And I wasn't worried about him. I was worried about these two.
All right, so look, we'll see if we can get y'all to come back and do something else with us, because this is a real confident group here, all right? I think we'll have a good conversation, right?
I believe so.
And because you were voted off first, Carl, I want you to answer it.
Huh?
Let's see if you give me an answer. There's no pressure, no time limit, so you're all right. Let's just see if you get it right. What was the first network television show to feature an all-black cast?
That wasn't in my question.
Yes,
Answer
it
the
was.
question.
I answered it, actually.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Wait,
Wow.
what?
I mean, it was all black.
It was all
The
black.
first, that's what we're gonna go with? We're gonna go with the Fresh Prince, we're gonna go the 90s, really?
I said all black. It's all black.
Now I see why you were voted off first. All right, no.
And that's why he should have stayed around, because I would have easily got
See?
that.
What's the answer? What was the answer?
Amos and Andy.
Amos and Andy. Amos and Andy. Question, did anyone, raise your hand, anyone know about Amos and Andy?
The
Before
show
today?
from the 50s, right?
Before today?
I never heard of him.
Yeah, from the 50s.
Okay, so let's just,
My first time.
let me give you a little background about it. All right, so the show Amos and Andy actually started, we talked about this television show, but it actually started as a radio show. It featured two actors turned radio personalities that created two characters. They obviously were white men because there weren't any really black people on the radio at that time. So a radio show that featured black casts, right? Black characters that were played by white men, right? The show was wildly popular. Again, the show ran for almost 30 years. They received numerous awards for their portrayal of Amos and Andy, which were these two black men. So fast forward, the creators worked to make the show, this radio show, into a television show. And they spent 4 years trying to cast the show till they finally casted the show. And they casted it with black actors. Productions before that featured a lot of black actors, but they were white in black faces, or even black actors in blackface, right? So blackface was all over the place when you talked about black characters in film. This was the first representation of black characters in television in the US that were played by black actors. So this is a huge moment in history, right? Some people found it funny. A lot of people found it funny. It actually was rated pretty high among viewers, right, back in the day. So what ended up happening was the show was eventually canceled. Numerous folks in the States, mostly black people, called for its cancellation. So cancel culture didn't start now, it started back then, but it was real. People felt that the show portrayed black people in a negative light. It was an outdated, overly exaggerated representation of black people, right? Again, no blackface. These are black actors playing black people. As a matter of fact, some of them are pretty well off, if I may, of the characters in the show. So with that, I think this gets into a bigger conversation that we can talk about. Talking about cancel culture, sort of, not really, but talking about how we as black people kind of view content created by black people, right? And what are the limits in terms of canceling? So I'm gonna present us with this question here. Do we hold back our progress as a community when we pass up valuable opportunities because we want to take a stand?
I would say, no, we don't hold ourselves back, because I think it's an individual's choice, particularly when we're talking about entertainment, actors. As an actor, I feel as though like it's my duty as a black man that I have to make sure that whatever roles I choose, I want to represent us in the best light possible. So if that means there are stereotypes in that role that are gonna make us as a whole look bad, I'm gonna try to stay away from that role. And I have done that in my career already. But again, it's an individual choice. I mean, some actors would say, you know what, that's a job, I need the check.
But it's not always selling out, right? It's not always saying that, right? Because if you're portraying something that is true,
right,
the question is it okay?
Right.
Is it okay to do so?
What
as
if
an actor or as...
I think like for me being behind the scenes and seeing how the lawyers I work for negotiate contracts, I don't want to say names, but one of the actors who's one of our clients, she's a really big name, she advocates hard about the role she accepts. So if she's accepting something that may make us look bad, behind the scenes, she's saying, well, I'm gonna need a black writer to come in and change some things up. Like that's part of the things we have to negotiate for her. So I think I'm not an actress, but if I'm gonna accept something, I'm not gonna accept something where there's a team of all, Caucasian people behind it because you don't know what you're talking about. Like one of my favorite sketch comedy shows is Key and Peele, but then as I'm watching this show, I'm like, I trust Jordan Peele because he makes jokes because he's mixed, he's black and white. But then you're making these jokes to a predominantly white audience who will take that and use that to kind of stereotype us as opposed to saying it's a black audience where it's like, oh, we grew up in the same house, we can laugh about it. So it's really particular why we need black writers, we need black producers, we need people who know our stories where we can poke fun, but be respectful. So it's not a stereotype, it's just poking fun at the way we grew up.
Right. But, and Carl, I'm gonna throw it to you. That's one part of it, right? I think what the story of Amos and Andy also is you have black people doing things, right? You have these characters, you have the actors who broke a barrier, right? And are on television as the first all black cast. But then on the other side of it, you have a major black organization, the NAACP, and you have other black professionals and the general public petitioning against black people. So that's black against black. Who wins? What is the point? That's what we're trying to break down here today.
Yeah, I personally don't believe in people blocking other people's blessings because of their perspectives of the world. It's the responsibility of those actors to decide if they want to take that role, knowing the history of that show. But the NAACP, I think, in terms of working to get it taken off the air, you can't block somebody's blessings. That's kind of whack, And personally, I work hard to create inroads for black people so that they could get opportunities, right? Like my entire job is helping black people, whether it's black businesses, whether it's actual black people. Like I build parks in the projects. Like I do these things so that we can uplift each other, right? So it's really awkward for me to think about taking food off of another black person's plate because of how I feel about that, right? They made a decision, they're black, right? They know the history, they're black. I'm sure the NAACP had to have had a conversation with the cast, right? To get an idea of why they decided to kind of do this show. So, the responsibility's on them.
And the interesting part about this is we hadn't seen, since the cast of Amos and Andy, we hadn't seen an all-black cast in a show until the 70s with Sanford and Son. So we went decades. So what does that say? What do you think about that?
My opinion on it is, I understand where they're coming from with wanting to cancel it because of the meaning of it. But at the same token, you can flip it and make it something positive, make it stand for something. Yeah.
Like what? Like what? Like how?
Because all the stereotypes and things, the blackface and all that stuff, that was going on during it, but you can take it and make it a positive show, showcasing, positive black people working, black people, families, things of that nature. That's just my opinion on it.
So the question is, would we have not gotten as far in terms of TV or film if it weren't for the cast of Amos and Andy?
Who's to say that there wouldn't have been another show to come down the pipeline? It might not have been, a slapstick comedy, but you got to also think about the time period. Unfortunately, mainstream America, they didn't view black people in the greatest of light. So it was easy for them, if they want to see black people on television, I think that they would have preferred to laugh at our idiocy and our pain and things of that nature, opposed to what Lakeisha was just saying, us being uplifted.
But is it fair to think with someone else's pockets and tell them they shouldn't do this because it's not right? Is it fair for someone to be, again, this cast never saw the light of day, any more work after this this show was
I
canceled?
think the anger was misconstrued because you could have boycotted the radio show. And like Lakeisha said, one thing about being Black, the beautiful thing about it is we could take our pain and make it something. So they could have took on these roles and just took over the whole production. Even at that time, the 50s, even at that time, we were doing a lot. Like that's like what the beginning of the civil rights movement, you know, Emmett Till got killed, depending on what year that was 55. So we were already at the height of things changing. So they could have took that moment to make history.
In terms of that, I feel like it's a double-edged sword because at the same time, I'm all for standing up for what you believe in and stuff like that. But at the same time, we as Black people, it's not every day we have opportunities come to us. We're not going to be the first priority on their list in terms of casting. So it's just look at from a historical context, look at all of our Black entertainers, actors and actresses in particular, like Viola Davis and Octavia Spencer and Lupita Nyong'o. They play these menial characters and stuff like that, but it got them they got their name out there.
Oh, yeah.
They were able to segue. They were able to make from, that performance, even though a lot of them had mixed feelings about playing that role. But at the same time, it's just like, if we pass on roles, Hollywood, when we deny certain roles, we're deemed as difficult. We're deemed as, don't cast them and stuff like that based off of our beliefs. So at the same time, it kind of puts us in a catch-22. That's just how I feel about it.
Yep. So, fast forward to today a little bit. There's a similar situation. Monsters Ball, the movie, starring Halle Berry, right? Halle Berry won an Oscar for Best Actor for that play. The first time ever, right? For a Black woman to win an Oscar for Best Actor in a film. I'll give you the other part of that. She wasn't the original actor that was supposed to play in that role. The producers originally wanted Angela Bassett, and Angela Bassett turned the role down.
That's understandable.
And Angela Bassett said, I don't want to put myself in that position to be viewed in that light.
Yeah. It makes sense. Look at the roles she's done. That's a backstep that's something she would have done in the beginning of her career. She's done played everybody mama. So that's a backstep.
Figuratively or?
Yeah. Biggie. Michael Jackson mama.
It's just
She
when you
played
look
Betty
at her,
Shabazz.
you don't see her in that kind of role. So
They snub her for what love got to do with it,
Go ahead.
I just don't see her in that type of role because she's always been in those.
But I think that's why we're not in Hollywood, right? We're not, or in part, not all the way, that we're not producers. I think folks can see and they have a vision for a particular piece that they want a particular actor or actress in. But with that, is she wrong?
No.
That's
her brand. That's part of her brand.
And that could have hurt her brand because of what she represents.
Yeah. Do any of us feel, Carl, do you feel like if you had what's your profession, Carl?
I'm in healthcare economics.
Healthcare economics, right. So you more specifically for our viewers.
So what I do is I take money from hospitals and I invest them in Black communities.
Got you. Oh, right on. Okay.
Salute to you,
Totally
man.
right on.
Thank you.
I love that.
Because I need $1.
Go, girl.
So if someone came to you and said, look, I see what you're doing over here with your job. You've done really great work. I got an even better deal for you. More money, better benefits, everything. But I need you to do something that you may not necessarily agree with. You don't got to kill anybody. Nobody's got to die. You don't have to, hurt anybody. No one's gonna get harmed. But I'm gonna need you to compromise your beliefs.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I've quit jobs for that before. I guess I would understand someone else if they're in a position where they're like, wow, like this job is the opportunity of a lifetime, but I have to do this one bad thing, right? I can understand if somebody chose that role, but I personally wouldn't do it.
All right, Carl, that was noble. But the flip side of it, what happens when taking a stance? What happens when doing that right thing takes food away from other people's plates?
That's a tough question to answer because the first question I would ask is in what ways, right? And I guess I understand that the portrayal of Black people in the show could negatively affect Black people outside of the show, right? But I also believe that Black people aren't a monolith. So any portrayal of Black people in general isn't going to represent every Black person.
Right.
Now, yes, stereotypes exist, and it's up to us as individuals to break those stereotypes, right? Like, I went to a PWI. White people thought that because I'm from Brooklyn, New York, that I was this, and because of my accent, because I'm from South Brooklyn, I'm from Canarsie, so I have a heavy New York accent. They thought that I wasn't smart, but like, I graduated pretty high up in my class, and I got a job in Wall Street right after I graduated.
There you go. That's right.
So like, after their experience with me, now when they hear a person say, yeah, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from Canarsie to Flossie, right? Like, they're not like, oh, he must be dumb. Instead, they're like, yeah, I know a guy who is from a place that is similar, right? And he was smart as hell, right? So in my opinion, although on the onset, it feels like food is being taken off your plate, it's also up to you to make your plate.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna present that question in a different way. There's an example. President Obama, when he was elected for the first time, right, as the first African American or the first Black president in the United States, everybody celebrating, right? You have people putting Obama on bumper stickers, Obama on t-shirts, the name Obama on everything, right? True or not?
Yeah.
True?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a fried chicken restaurant in Brooklyn that called itself Obama Fried Chicken. They changed their name to Obama Fried Chicken. This is real. And it happened in other parts of the country too. There was petitioning to shut this place down. Is it okay to shut that place down because it's called Obama Fried Chicken?
I would have told him to change the name.
Is
like,
it
you're ignorant?
It's just the name at this point?
I changed the name.
I mean, to be honest, at that time, I mean, I never heard of this. This is news to me. But I think back then, I would have thought of it as celebratory. We're celebrating President Obama. Now, of course, we know that fried chicken, the stereotype, what that does in Black culture, but you know, so what?
Ain't no
I
but.
mean, we never had a Black president before.
Right. So one could argue. Now check it out, because I don't believe that it was derogatory, right? You know,
I don't think it was intended to be that.
Let's assume, right? Let's assume positive intent here, right? It was celebratory. It was a gesture of goodwill, right? The protests that ensued want to shut this place down. What happens literally, taking food off people's plate, no pun intended, but like, who's right in this situation now? Do we close down a business that not only benefits the business owners, but now the people who are accustomed to already going to that establishment before Obama was even elected, which was there, now they're at risk of losing a place that they've gone to for years. What is that? Like, who's wrong?
Don't close it.
No, if anything, change the name.
Yeah, I think a conversation should have been had.
The ignorance of putting a Black man and symbolizing him with fried chicken is like, why would you think that's okay? I'm not gonna shut you down, but you need to understand that this is wrong. You should change it. You can celebrate him in other ways. Hey, we're gonna have an Obama sale, or we're gonna do this to celebrate the first Black president. There's ways you can do that. And I think that's part of what's beautiful about this show is educating people on our history so they can understand why things are wrong. Why we are speaking up about Gucci and all these brands doing things and not thinking and celebrating us is like, no, you're making money off us, but you're doing it wrong.
But that's a good point though, because maybe we want to cancel an Obama Fried Chicken, or we might, watch a show where Black people may have wronged other Black people, but then we go to brands that are white owned, like Gucci or H&M, for instance, who they had monkeys and they had, or the certain newspaper tagged Obama as a monkey shot, in a newspaper cartoon clipping. But we purchase these newspapers, we buy the clothes, we still stay a part of those brands. We shop at H&M and other establishments that have wronged us.
I feel like
what's going on?
It's one of those things where it's like, who's on your team that you guys thought this was okay? And if I know that it's not a lot of people of color on this team, you're not canceled. We just need you to hire more people of color so you can understand why. I like cancel culture, but I think the issue is we don't give people an opportunity to fix their mistakes. Because we can't be mad at other ethnicities and races who don't know our history because we're still learning our own. We're still making history.
All right, I'm gonna challenge you on that one because we said give people an opportunity to fix their mistakes. Does anyone have an example of when someone may have been canceled and had an opportunity to fix their mistake that we can think of?
I think every person who's canceled has an opportunity to fix their mistake.
I want a specific. No, I'm not.
Everybody.
I'm not talking about hypothetical.
Okay.
Not
Think about
everybody.
it, think about
Kelly
it.
got what you got.
Kanye West. Kanye West has been canceled numerous times, and he's had numerous opportunities, even to the point where he just dropped Donda and did a whole thing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium over in Atlanta, and he could have righted all his wrongs, and he didn't.
But when was he canceled though?
When he was gone
When he
for
said
Donald
slavery
Trump.
was a choice.
Oh yeah, that's it.
But again, I'm still trying to figure out how.
He hasn't. I mean,
I think there was reason. But was he canceled?
Right. I don't think so. I
He
mean,
wasn't
He
necessarily
was never
canceled
really
never
always.
necessarily canceled.
Everybody just looked at him
but-
sideways, like,
right.
what?
Yeah, well, I mean, some people probably took a step back from Kanye, but en masse, no, people still
Right.
listen to his music. His,
Right.
his album still records.
Give me an example of
I don't have- I
someone
can't
who was
think of one.
canceled and had an opportunity to
But the
redeem
people
himself.
I'm
And
thinking
did. I'm
of
sorry.
are people
And
who
did.
were sexual abusers, and it's kind of like that's a tricky
You can't
situation.
really-
So you can't really come back from that because
But cancel culture is what we're talking about. We're talking about cancellation now.
yeah,
So it doesn't just pertain to music. It doesn't just pertain
Yeah.
to, you're right, all over the place, right? It's someone who's a celebrity, right? Generally has a product, a business, and people say shut them down, cancel them for something that maybe had nothing to do with the business. It's just because of the person or what they said, right? Or their views on something. Name an opportunity, a time when someone who was canceled came back because they had an opportunity to redeem themselves. That's what you said.
well, the people I'm thinking of that was canceled deserve to be canceled. I don't know anyone who had an
Right.
opportunity because if there was some of the people I'm thinking of is like, you had a right to be canceled, but when it
I'm
comes
drawing
to
a blank.
Would you say
Yeah.
Bill Cosby was an example of canceled? Because
Let's just stay away from him altogether. Let's just stay away from him altogether.
Well, I would say Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy Teigen
Okay.
is a person who was canceled, and she takes every opportunity she can to one, show publicly that she's sorry, that she learned, and on top of that, she also, which I think is really interesting and really helpful for all of us as a society, she also talks about what it's like to be canceled. She's almost like a voice for those who have been canceled before, and it's not
wrongfully.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but
So-
it's not necessarily to say, you should feel bad for us who got canceled, but it's just giving us light into what that's like.
Okay, so now that we've talked about this, going back to Amos and Andy, they were canceled. How would they have redeemed themselves?
I mean,
It's a time period, though.
time period.
It's like, it's hard to say.
They never got work
because-
again.
yeah, I mean, what possible? I think what should have happened. I think what should have happened is the content of the show changed, more so than the show actually just being pulled off the air.
So the content of the show, as the show progressed, it was on for 4 years. As the show progressed, 2 seasons. As the show progressed, the characters became less and less minstrel, if you will.
Okay.
Right? But so that's the answer to your question. But the second piece is, would you still have watched it? Because I want to get back to it.
Well-
how would those actors who broke a barrier in their own right, they got canceled? They never saw work again. Black people helped cancel Black people. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't, say something bad. They didn't have a gaffe in public. They didn't, do anything crazy. They did their job, and they were canceled by Black people. I think that's the part that we're missing here, and that's what I'm trying to, challenge y'all all on.
But I feel the Black people should have gave them another opportunity then. If you're gonna take something away, then give them something, some kind of word. Like you just can't just leave them out there with nothing.
That's true, but at the time we didn't have
Yeah, I
Tyler
was
Perry
gonna say-
Studios.
I was gonna
At the
literally
time
say,
we didn't have. At the time we didn't have Oprah,
Yeah.
so they were the highest that we had achieved at that point.
Sometimes there are martyrs, who have to unfortunately die on the hill and take that sword for others.
Receiving or taking an opportunity isn't as simple as something for you, and that instead, there's so much more to consider. What I didn't think about before that kind of forced me to think about with this conversation was that, like everything for me has been, okay, we got to take every little step we can to advance myself, right? Me and my family, right? And obviously, my family raised me in a way to have a particular code, right?
Yep.
But I actually never ever thought about, like, how is this gonna affect the Black race when I take this opportunity, right?
Yep.
Maybe I thought about it in terms of my family, like how my family view me, but I never really thought about the whole race in its own right. It's made me really think about the broad context and the work that I would be accepting to do.
Yeah.
That's something that I never thought about before, and I'm glad that this conversation led me there.
Yeah, that's deep. That's a great perspective, by the way. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's funny because I was familiar with Amos and Andy and knew that their show got taken off the air. In fact, not that long ago, my brother told me that when my granddad came to visit him, he was actually sitting watching Amos and Andy. And he had fond memories of watching Amos and Andy as a child. But for me, knowing that it got canceled, I guess today our conversation made me think about the flip side of it. The fact that I never knew those gentlemen didn't get an opportunity to ever work as actors again on a television show. And I was like, wow, that's really something, because that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That, a group that's about the advancement of colored people, they stopped that for a certain group with those two men. And I thought that was very interesting.
Right. I think also what's important is that we hear from our viewers as well. So make sure y'all comment on this subject. If you have a thought, or if you want to share something that you learned from this conversation, please make sure you put it in the chat box, all right? And with that being said, we're gonna wrap this up. I want to thank our guests for being such phenomenal contributors to this discussion. We're awesome. I also want to thank our viewers for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. And thank you for checking out Do You Know Black Kickback. This is me, Lamont Caroline. I'm your host, and we will see you next time.